Hello, everybody. My name is Alexander Ryota Keeley, an associate professor from Kyushu University, and welcome to Earth Youth Summit in Kyoto. Hope you enjoy it. And today in my lecture, I'm gonna talk about with theme going beyond GDP, gross domestic product. The key point is how to measure sustainability. In order to achieve SDGs, Paris Agreement, we need measurement to measure sustainability. And one and as one of the key sustainability measurement indices, we will focus on the Inclusive Wealth Index, which we have been also involved in the development process together with United Nations. Well, I hope you enjoyed the lecture. A little bit more about my self-introduction. So currently, I'm an associate professor at the Department of Civil Engineering at Kyushu University. But prior to joining the academia at Kyushu University, I had been working at several international organizations, starting from International Energy Agency in Paris, UNDP Pacific Regional Office, and the World Bank in Tokyo for 4 years. Although working at the international organizations were really fun, um, at that time I met my current boss, Professor Shunsuke Managi, and I had a chance to talk with him. He's one of the top 1% scholar worldwide in the sustainability field. And when we talked, he convinced me that if we really want to change society from neutral way, using scientific evidences and less biased way, academia is the place and not the international organization. And after talking with him, I got convinced, which I still do not regret. I decided to quit international organization and move to academia. And that's why I joined Kyushu University. And since then, while working on various research projects, we are also working on social implementation too, as Professor Shinskamani promised. We co-founded Kyushu University startup company called ISG, which conducts company product service level ESG sustainability assessment. And I'm serving as chief researcher at the company right now. For the research projects, some of them are listed here. We have been working on, for example, ESG and corporate value, which is funded by the Ministry of the Environment, Japan. And also Moonshot project funded by Japanese government called DACU, Direct Air Capture and Utilization. And we are also a member of Task Force 20, which is a task force to provide policy recommendations to G20. And last year, we published one policy brief for G20 India, G20 Indonesia. And this year, we published 3 policy briefs for G20 Indonesia, and we're preparing another one for G20 Brazil next year. And today we'll focus on the last line, this one, United Nations Inclusive Wealth Report. So Inclusive Wealth Index is something that me, myself, and Professor Shinsuke Managi, we've been together working on for a long time, and various scholars and practitioners are involved in this big initiative. So let's dive into inclusive wealth. First, I like I like to look at this figure. I think you notice what figure this is. The figure jumps from around 1900, skyrockets. What figure is this? This is GDP, gross domestic product. So after the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944, GDP became the main tool for measuring a country's economy. But that was just invented to measure the country's economy, not country's sustainability or economic development in a more desirable way. So just this is GDP in 2000 year. You can see how much skyrocketing it is in this 200 year. And there's a lot of talk. Scholars especially say that we need to go beyond GDP. And we know the reason why. Why is because first, GDP disregard the environment. Let's say, for example, there's a forest fire happening in Fukuoka, Kyushu. And forest fire will this forest fire or decrease the natural capital, burning the trees. But what about GDP? Even though we're gonna lose the trees, there will be people working to distinguish the fire, and there will be people working to restore the land, and economic activities happen, so GDP actually increases. Same for the bottom left figure about overfishing in Japan, bottom figure of deforestation of Amazon rainforest. We get more fish, more natural capital, and I mean we lose natural capital by overfishing, but GDP will increase. So GDP disregards the environment is the primal problem that we have. And yeah, a country could, for example, deplete its entire natural resource assets while still recording positive GDP change. Then this is not sustainable at all. So famous economists like Joseph Stiglitz has been saying that GDP is not a good measure of economic performance. It's not a good measure of well-being, especially. And this is a famous book called Mismeasuring Our Lives, Why GDP Doesn't Add Up. This is another good book to read by Jeffrey Stiglitz and Amartya Sen and John Paul Tosu. And beyond GDP, this is a graph comparing the social welfare, which includes consumption, leisure, mortality, and inequality, and GDP per person. And we can see that while welfare is highly correlated with GDP per capita, well, not highly, but to some extent, deviations are often large. And Western and Europe looks considerably closer to the United States, but emerging Asia has not caught up as much, and many developing countries are further behind. That's something we can see from this figure. And now we have MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, that was settled in 2015, and SDGs, which was settled in Paris after Paris Agreement with 17 goals. Now we have these big challenges and goals to achieve for, but we do not say anything about how much we will do and how much we will achieve in the numbers, but we just saw the goals and what kind of direction we want to go. But we actually need the numbers and assessments. Of course, all the international organizations are working on this assessments and monitoring and gathering data. However, the reality of SDGs data unification system is really, really complex. So as you know, there's various international organizations existing in the world. UNEP, UNCTAD, World Bank, WHO, ILO, FAO. National organizations, national government will provide the data to each of these different international organizations. Even inside the World Bank, which I had been working on for several years, creating one huge data set takes a long, long time. And think about the situation that government is providing data to different international organizations, and they are trying to harmonize them and process them for international compatibility and create the SDG global database, which will be maintained by UNSD. But this sounds like a huge, huge challenge, and actually, it's not really going well, even at this point. So we need much more easier measurement of sustainability, which is based on economic theory, understandable, and scientific base. And this is a figure showing inclusive wealth. You can see that inclusive wealth is composed of three things. Left things if produce capital, something close to GDP. Middle is human capital, ourselves human. And right is nature, natural capital. If we can assess, produce human and natural capital correctly and monitor them, we can assess the sustainability at any level. That's the concept of inclusive wealth index. And under the manufactured capital, physical capital, we look at things like roads, buildings, machines, and equipment. In human capital, we take into account for the knowledge and educations and skills and salaries and such. And for natural capital, we cover most of the natural capitals, including forests, agricultural lands, rivers, and oceans, ecosystems, and so on. And inclusive wealth has been said that it is really adequate measurement for sustainability. This is for PNA. This is from an article from PNAS. It says that inclusive wealth is a measure of the aggregated wealth of society, including the value of natural capital, along with the values of human capital, manufactured capital, and social capital. And inclusive wealth is a sufficient statistic for showing whether or not global society is on a sustainable trajectory. This is strong words coming from PNAS article. And another articles from Science and PNAS are saying that this is the one from Pasadas Gupta. As nations work to meet the SDGs, UN statistics offices should begin to prepare inclusive wealth accounts and track the movements and wealth through time. So rather than having really complex data management monitoring system, aligning with inclusive wealth is one of the ways, something that Dasgupta has stressed in his article. And another article from Penis says that Kenneth Arrow, Nobel Prize winner, was a leader in this field. It is also notable that the intellectual roots of inclusive wealth trace to work of two Nobel Prize, William Nordhaus and James Tobin. So Nordhaus and Tobin and Kenneth Arrow, they're all involved in this huge movement of the development of sustainability measurement, inclusive wealth index. This looks a little bit complex, but this is showing what kind of concept that inclusive wealth has. And to explain it really easily, so the stock of capital is the production base. Natural capital, human capital, manufactured capital, we include social capital here too. But these capitals will be the production base to produce any kind of services, you need human products, we need natural capital, human capital, manufactured capital. So products and services are created based on this production base stocks of capital. And the goods and services produced will finally enhance our human well-being. And there's several feedback effects happening, but to understand them really easily, these are the production base. And if we measure the production base correctly, then we can maintain the sustainability of the society, which can maintain the human well-being of the society too. So that is the basic concept of inclusive wealth and the relationship with well-being. And within the inclusive wealth, we normally focus on these three key capitals: natural, human, and produced capitals. And as I explained, aforementioned, fossil fuels, minerals, forest resources, agricultural land, fisheries, all of these are counted in natural capital. And human capital, we look at education and health. Produced capital, we look at equipments, machines, and roads and others. And we also adjust inclusive wealth by adding adjusting factor, including carbon damages, which is really important, and oil capital gains and total factor productivity. And after combining all of these, we calculate adjusted inclusive wealth. And since the development of inclusive wealth, it has a long history. We'll start from three of the Nobel Prize winners. And there was 2012 inclusive wealth report published, and from 14th, Kyushu University has been involved. And in 2018, Professor Shunsuke Managi was the lead author for the inclusive wealth report, and we also helped writing this report. and Kyushu University, together with the United Nations, we published a report. And another Inclusive Wealth Report 2023 just came out recently. Sorry that I could not include it in this lecture, but if you're interested, please search by Inclusive Wealth Index 2023. And inclusive wealth is gradually becoming adopted by governments, not just the national governments, but local governments too. For example, this is UN. UN is stressing that the importance of natural capital in the official statements. And country-wise, let's look at India. India, they decided to use inclusive wealth, especially focus on natural capital, to monitor the natural capital movement of the country. In United Kingdom, this is the Dasgupta review, so-called the Dasgupta review, which is published by Pasa Dasgupta. And it's an independent review on the economics of biodiversity. And based on this report, as you can see, we have increase in produced capital, but decrease in natural capital. And what Dasgupta has been stressing is that we need to increase in natural capital, not just the produced capital, and maintain sustainability. And since this review was out, Dasgupta review became really popular, famous, and UK also adopted the new law adopting inclusive wealth index as their accounting scheme too. In Japan, we are really strongly pushing the adoption of the inclusive wealth too. So this guy is Shunsuke Managi. He was one of the first guys from private sectors to meet ex-Prime Minister Abe Shinzo during the Corona time. And we wrote a policy recommendation called Nihon Shinsei 2030. And we are also talking a lot with the Japanese government and discussing how we can incorporate inclusive wealth in our accounting system too. But not just at the country levels. Country levels, we are working really accessibly, but not just the country level, but bottom-up success is really important too. So we are working on bottom-up success together with local government municipalities too. And to create the regional success, we partner up with some of the municipalities such as Nogatashi Hisamacho in Kyushu, and we created their long-term 10-year planning, including long-term 10-year planning of the municipality by reflecting having the inclusive wealth index as a key performance index, KPI. And Japan Minister of Environment also says in the book that sustainable use of natural, human, and physical capital is really important for region, just country overall. So we also created an open database showing that each municipality's sustainability level inclusive wealth index for each municipality. And if you access this Evasiva, then you can see how much natural human produced capital each municipality has and rankings and compare cities. And you can do a lot of things on this database. So let's actually look at the results of some of the results of Inclusive Wealth Report that came out in 2018. Please look at the right figure. The blue line here is produced capital. And the yellow line here is education capital. And black one here is Inclusive Wealth Index. Green one is natural capital. Black one is going up, so which means that countries overall from 1992 to 2014 has been sustainable, growing in a sustainable way, but with caution. Even though Inclusive Wealth Index has been positive for all the time, it doesn't mean that we are experiencing strong sustainability. Strong sustainability means that we need to maintain the nature as it is. but you can see that natural capital has been going down, going down, going down a lot since 1992 to 2040. So we can say that we have growing produced capital and human capital for the sake of natural capital. We're exploiting natural capital to produce capital and higher human capital. When we look at countries, this figure shows that between 1990 to 2014, it shows the average annual growth rate of inclusive wealth index. And we can see that most of the countries, 135 of the 140 countries experienced the positive annual average growth rate in inclusive wealth index. However, this is also inclusive wealth index per capita during the same time. We can see the several countries in Latin America, Middle East, and Asia, the gray ones, black ones, are unsustainable in inclusive wealth per capita, per person level. So country overall, inclusive wealth overall, a lot of countries are positive, but when we look at it per capita, including the population, accounting for population growth, a lot of countries are growing in an unsustainable way. And especially as we saw in the figure before, natural capital has been depleting. And where this depletion is happening, natural capital share is high in Latin America, but other countries with gray areas, they have low natural capital. And if these countries with rich natural capitals use up the natural capital, then that's the time we really need to, well, maybe that's too late to consider the sustainability of the society. And this is a projection of global average per capita inclusive wealth. We created various scenarios, including them. There's 3 scenarios showed in this figure. In any scenarios, we can see that the projection of global average per capita inclusive wealth will increase, and around 1.3 or 1.5 times the current value, it will reach by 2050 with continuous growth. However, as continuously saying, natural capital is slowly on the decline globally. Natural capital has been declining slowly globally. And we need our resources, which includes agricultural land, forests, and fish. These parts, they account for more than half of the natural capital. So we really need to think seriously about how we treat natural capital. So these are the reasons why we say nature positive, carbon positive, carbon negative, nature positive, these words come up. These words are showing how much society realized that it is important to conserve nature and create a society, harmonized society that utilize the production base in a sustainable manner. So I talked about a lot of things, mainly focused on going inclusive wealth index, but here I have 2 questions for you. First question is, what is the challenge or what are the challenges when measuring sustainability? And is GDP, gross domestic product, enough for us? That's the first question. And second question is, what is the concept of inclusive wealth index? Please explain. And what further actions do we need to mobilize the countries to actually adopt these kind of sustainability measurement? So here are the 2 questions, and I really hope that you enjoyed the lecture, and good luck with the journey.